this definitively by June 7th, it cannot appear on the ballot in November.
It can go at the second June meeting if you like, but
Okay.
traditionally we've done it the first meeting in June every election year.
I have a feeling we're gonna move it to the second meeting in June. That's just a feeling I get.
Well,
If I could, is there a chance, does Mr. Ely mention whether he can be here for the second meeting in May?
He can be here for the second meeting in May. He is unavailable for the first meeting in May. I am unsure of his availability for the second meeting in June.
Okay,
Very
so
welcome.
maybe I could ask you, Mr. City Manager, to go ahead and find out his availability on alternate dates. Because I can understand you wouldn't wanna first, have the opportunity to make a final decision on the last possible day that we could, that we could make that decision. So it looks like maybe we need to find out if he can be there the second meeting in May. So we have an opportunity to adequately deal with that. Okay, are there other comments?
That was what I was going to address, so that's
Great.
fine.
Okay. Then, if there's not further discussion, do I have a motion?
I'll move to receive and file.
Great, and I would second it. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That passes unanimously, and we'll go to item number 5. And, did a member of the public pull this?
I believe so. We also had information submitted for the record, so I just wanted to make a note of that. Email from the trooper.
Please.
Name's Richard Ward, long-time resident. Okay, Lucinda, who's the one that put this on the agenda? Was it you or was it somebody else?
I'm sorry, if you can address your comments to us, and if you have questions, I will try to get those answered.
I think you just answered that for me. Okay, it's a violation of the Constitution, of which you're all sworn to protect, to violate the First Amendment rights of the citizens. If you're gonna censor somebody, you wanna censor Jan Fleury. Let's see, let's go over some of her statements in the past in the city council chambers to citizens. Sucking on the government's tit. Mother didn't breastfeed Travis Kiger enough during the election. That was really nice. You said to me, I take you to my house and you shit on my carpet. You don't like stronger, older women. This is coming from a woman who's an attorney. And she's an attorney of family law. You trying to be a female Donald Trump or something? Alright. Yeah, I got major dirt on Fells, Chafee, and Fleury. And come election time, I wanna get up and I wanna talk about that. One big issue I have right now is this guy just told me, he just emailed this file to her yesterday and he has it on the computer. You guys won't even let me put stuff on this computer. And you're violating my rights doing that. I can't wait till election time because I will be exposing everything I know about these people and bring all the facts and all the proof I need. If you wanna shut me up, I'll just go get me an attorney and I'll sue the city for violating my First Amendment rights. Interrupting the speakers and cutting their talking time or violations
I'm
of the
sorry,
First Amendment
Mr.
rights.
I am gonna interrupt you because this
Well,
is
stop the
about,
clock.
no, you need to speak to the agenda item.
That's what I am. It's all about the decorum of this forum. What part am I not talking about?
What would you like to change on the decorum item
That you
that we're
don't
dealing with
violate any
tonight?
First Amendment rights of the citizens. You don't
Right.
shut them up, you don't take away their minutes, you don't censor them, you don't take away their right to put files on the computer. You don't try to hide things from the public, and that's what you've been doing for the last 2 years with everything I've tried to do. You always cut me off, you take away my time from the thing, and you get away with it every time. You're not gonna do it anymore, because if you do it again, I'll just get an attorney and I'll sue the city for violation of my Brown Act and violation of the Brown Act and my First Amendment rights. That's what I'm talking about. You wanna change all the rules of and look at the way she behaves. That's the one you wanna correct. You wanna change her behavior, and don't worry about us, because you're just violating our rights. You have 2 lawyers up there that know better. You and you both know that you have a responsibility to follow the rules of the Constitution. And by taking away our First Amendment rights, that's a no-no, and you know better.
Thank you. Next speaker?
Good evening again, Barry Levinson. These rules have been in place for an awfully long time. And quite frankly, it's a little suspicious that right before an election year, you're deciding to clamp down on what we as citizens can do. You know what, there's about maybe a dozen, maybe 24 people tonight that under your new rules could be thrown out of this place for polite clapping after a speaker disrupting nothing, but you want to control that. That sounds like somebody who's somewhat of a control freak. I think of another word, but you want to control polite clapping. You want to do away with Mr. Embriano's camera. You want to put him in the back. Why? He's bothering nobody. He's blocking nobody. Is he? Nobody's blocked, not even in the front row. Why do you want to put him back there? It's all political. And it is a violation of our First Amendment rights. And none of you should be voting for this. It really is disgusting. You really are a bunch of arrogant people that think you can do things like that. You just don't like the fact that there's some people like myself and Mr. Embriano that use this opportunity to tell it like it is. So you're fighting back dirty, because that's the only way you people know how to fight back. Dirty. Not with the facts, not caring about the people. Clapping is a problem. Really. You cut back, I think I read somewhere that on the public items, the big issues, where you normally would have 5 minutes, which is not adequate. If it's a serious, complicated issues, to speak on in 5 minutes is not enough. You're cutting it back to 3. But let me tell you, a lot of people here don't realize that before basically Mayor Chafee became mayor, there were very rarely public presentations. Once in a blue moon. But most of the times it was like tonight. But since Councilman Chafee was mayor, it seems like almost every time there's 3, 4, 5, taking an hour sometimes or more. And then when the public comments come, and if there's more than 15 people or 10 people, it's going to take more than 30 minutes. Right away, people like Ms. Fitzgerald come up and say, ooh, 30 minutes, we can't waste the public, we got business to do. Well, you just wasted an hour because most of those presentations, although deserving of the people, nothing against some of the people that get the awards, but they shouldn't be done here. They should be done at a different time and place, or at the end of the meeting, not the beginning of the meeting. And then who do you go against? You go against the people. You represent us, and yet every one of your actions shows just the opposite. Shame on you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jane Rance. Again, I'd like to ask for some changes to this, please. First of all, I'd like to say in support of Section 22D at the end where it was added, clearly stating what already is in the Brown Act, that a council member must state the reason for recusing themselves prior to leaving the dais. And I also like the added bit that our clerk then will be also tracking those recusals for public record. However, some of the things that I'm not so happy about, specifically the decorum section at the beginning, I'm concerned about removing clapping or about disallowing clapping in the chamber. Treating this as prohibited behavior because it's uncivil. I think we're going to end up finding that based on previous cases, specifically I was reviewing Acosta versus the city of Costa Mesa. I went to an appeal and there were clear statements citing previous cases that I believe will be able to challenge the prohibition of clapping as being unconstitutionally overbroad and unnecessarily sweeps a substantial amount of non-disruptive protected speech or expressive conduct within its prohibitive language. So I'd like you to reconsider that. I also question how that would be enforced when MAD comes to give awards to our police officers for what I colloquially like to refer to as shooting fish in a barrel, but for citing people for drunk driving. People will want to applaud when people receive awards for their volunteerism. People want to applaud. How will we selectively enforce this? I don't think that is going to pass constitutional muster as well if we selectively enforce what you can and cannot clap for. As well, it serves to allow people who either don't have the ability to speak for themselves because it may be a language barrier or a disability, to signal their support for an item when someone else speaks in taking the position that they favor. And as well, of course, it reduces the amount of people that have to come up and speak. If people can sit in the audience and register their support for what someone else is saying. And as well, with the sign issue, I'm glad that was recognized as a problem because there was a council meeting, I recall, and when the council was meeting in temporary next door at the library, and Curtis Gamble was removed by then Sergeant Rudisil for holding a sign in public because one of the council members found that offensive. I'm glad that you're making it clear that that is constitutionally protected. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, Sean Payton. I have a lot of concerns with this resolution, and I've sent all of you an email or a letter. I trust you received it.
We all have gotten it.
Okay, good. So those are the more picky tack ones where we can work it out and the provision could be fixed. You are not fixing the section regarding clapping. And just for everyone in the audience who doesn't know what we're talking about, this is what the change is going to be. Quote, to encourage citizen participation and expression of all points of view, clapping, booing, or shouts of approval or disagreement from the audience are not allowed. Failure to comply with decorum rules may result in removal from city council chambers or meeting stoppage. Again, this runs in a huge problem with the First Amendment here. And I mentioned something Jane Rand's me because I was going to mention that myself. During presentations, people clap. When every single one of you was sworn in, and I know because I was at all of your swearing in, people clap. And if the city decorum rules prohibit people from clapping during agenda items, and they don't enforce it during presentations or swearing-ins, then you have a content-based distinction, and it's not permissible. So we're just not going to be able to allow clapping at all. Even then, you have problems. I cited a case for you. It was Norse versus City of Santa Cruz. If the concern here is disruption, then what you prevent is actual disruption. Actual disruption is not potential disruption. It does not mean constructive disruption, technical disruption, nunc-pro-tunc disruption, or imaginary disruption. The city cannot define disruption so as to include non-disruption. For example, that sign right there is not disruption. You might not like it, but it's not disruption. He's not preventing anyone from coming in or out. He's not preventing anyone from speaking their mind. It's not disruption. And this council needs to not get in that issue. There's other cities that have this clapping restriction. One of them is the city of Riverside, and they just paid out $50,000 to settle a lawsuit by an activist named Letitia Pepper, who was forcibly removed from a council meeting for clapping. There's an article about it in the Riverside Press Enterprise dated November 5th, 2015. So, and it really is giving people an opportunity to speak their mind through the clapping, it's a way of letting people know and express their position that might not feel comfortable coming up here in front of the dais. A lot of people are nervous about speaking in public, and that's the way that they handle it. Also, I've got the other issues that I addressed. The other thing I would just mention is, actually, you know what, no, that's it. Do not implement this at all. This needs to be stricken completely. And I hope you take a look at the other requests that I made as well.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good evening, David Curley. Here. I mainly have some housekeeping items that I want to point out. But first, I have a question, and I want to go about this as nice as I can. Mayor Fitzgerald, I'll wait for you to stop talking. I have a question for you. This past December, the time limit for public hearings was 10 minutes for the public to speak. When you became mayor, it very quietly and quickly was reduced to 5 minutes. That could be a coincidence, I don't know. But now it's going to be reduced to 3 minutes. So, you know, it looks very suspicious that you are behind this. If you're not, then say so when I'm done speaking. As for the other items, I sent Lucinda an email on a couple of them. This is section 6, projector use, since I'm mainly the only person who uses it. The material should be submitted by noon on the preceding business day. This doesn't work if City Hall is closed Friday and Monday is a holiday. There is no preceding business day once the agenda comes out. So that should be changed. Another section, and I understand it's most likely for fire safety. It says a maximum of 140 people in this room with no requirement to provide overflow seating. It says staff may provide it. But what happens when person 141 arrives? Are they automatically barred from attending? Or will someone open up overflow space in the library? That's not clarified. If we have to call out a speaker slip on every item before the meeting starts, I mean, I don't know what I'm going to speak on until the meeting or the item is discussed. I'm not going to be able to determine that beforehand, and I wouldn't do this to be disruptive, but I would have no choice but to pull every single item off the calendar and the regular business items, and then we'd probably drag the meeting out till 11 or 12, and I'd rather go home and sleep, as would all of you, but if that's what you guys want to do, that's going to be the consequence, I'm afraid. My last comment is, why would the city manager have the discretion whether or not to record special meetings? That was a fiasco last November. I don't know why you would give him that authority to decide that.
Thank you. Are there any other public speakers on this issue? Then we'll go ahead and bring it back to council.
As I approach the podium. Thank you.
Start going.
Well, I guess this is the reason for this ordinance being proposed. I'm not blocking anyone's view. I may be stepping on some toes, but I have a right to do that. People died and bled out barefoot in the snow. That's why that flag is red, white, and blue, Ms. Fitzgerald. Don't wrap yourself in that red, white, and blue flag if you're going to push these kinds of suggestions to become enacted by this governing body. That tripod, that's not a fire hazard. And I'll get a press pass. I'll make sure the tripod continues, because full disclosure of these meetings is totally important to the benefit of the community at large. I don't understand what the problem is. We had almost a riot situation here when the Kelly Thomas protests were going, and this was never raised. I know it's election time. Some people want to cling to their power for selfish reasons, not for the benefit of the community. The First Amendment stands, and it's going to stand, and it'll be challenged. I think it reflects very poorly. I honestly think that it is political suicide for you to vote for this right now. You know, I don't have a lot of time on my hands with a family. And when I try to open up an agenda item in Google Chrome and it doesn't want to open, as we spend $20 million a month running this city. And so between breaks and between children and between responsibilities, I've got to go into Explorer and pull it up and try to find a way to make that bizarre PDF print. So I don't get it. Why are you all wanting to hide everything? I mean, I thought we were all a community. You wrap yourself in the flag. You act like you're all into this community and this love Fullerton thing. And there's nobody here getting out of line. If they are, Dan Hughes is here and he can get one of his guys on him. I don't think I've ever seen anybody removed from this council chamber in the 3 or 4 years that I've been coming here. I've never seen a problem that warrant this. But I know you don't like me. And I know you don't like my signs. But you know what? I have a right to do that. And people can come in here and challenge my signs with their signs. It's not disruptive. Nothing's being distracted from. And, you know, thank God for the internet. Thank God for YouTube. And, you know, if you don't want to let us have access to this thing, I don't understand. Can I bring my laptop in here and plug it in? Do I have to give you a day and a half heads up notice so you can dismantle my points like an erector set with plenty of warning? Can I come in here just like you guys do and blindside us? I mean, isn't this how the balance of power between the people and the government maintains itself in a healthy manner? I mean, there has to be objectivity, there has to be openness, there has to be transparency, and you have to give us the opportunity. If you're going to spend $20 million a month of our money, and you don't want us telling you, boo, no way, Jose, what are we supposed to do? What's the other remedy? It's pretty obvious. Anyway, the ballot box is coming in November, and anybody that votes for this either needs to be removed from office in November or recalled, because this is the ultimate slap in the face to the American way. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public speakers on this issue? Okay, we'll go ahead and bring it back to City Council. I believe that, I have worked very closely with staff on this revision to our decorum resolution, and I know Ivy Sy, our attorney, is here. And there you are, Ivy, so I know you have a few things to say about it, and I'll just say before Ivy comes up, that this is done every few years here in town, and it is to organize all of the rules relating to decorum into one resolution, to iron out some inconsistencies, and to make sure that everyone who comes to council feels able to express their opinion. And this can be, I mean, for some of us, you know, we're used to being called all kinds of names and being booed at and cheered at and whatever. But many people who come to council to discuss items important to them aren't used to it. And it can be a very intimidating experience for them. So that really informed how we are trying to modify the decorum initiative. But Ivy, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor Fitzgerald and council members. Yes, city staff did work with us on these revisions. We were careful to protect First Amendment rights of free speech, and in fact, the intent was to enhance efficiency and the conduct of city business while enhancing full public participation. And so that's why we have rules relating to the speaker slips and the decorum to protect everybody's right, whether or not it's popular or not. And I have reviewed Mr. Paden's letter, and I do not see any legal issues with this resolution.
And in these revisions, I just want to be clear, you can still bring signs to city council. You can still videotape council meetings. There is an allowance for the press.
That is correct. There's no prohibition, and everything is content neutral. There are just rules so that nothing is a distraction, and nobody would be removed absent an actual disruption. Nobody's been removed tonight, and this really is a culmination and an update reflecting current procedures and
Another question I have is in chapter 2 under decorum, it talks about, approval or disagreement from the council are not allowed. What would you think if we changed those words not allowed to discouraged?
that would be
The point is to encourage civility, to allow everyone to state their own opinion, and
that would be a perfectly acceptable revision.
great, thanks.
Mayor Fitzgerald, I would also state that we eliminate clapping from that as well, because several of the speakers have made the very legitimate point that clapping occurs many times in this chamber. And I think it would be impossible to enforce, so I would suggest to the council that we remove that. If I could go through some of the other things, regarding the signs, I have heard the complaints, but there have been occasions when a member that is sitting in this chamber right now thoroughly intimidated Sharon Quirk Silva when she came to our chamber to speak by holding a sign not 4 feet away from her. The same individual did it at a time when a member of Eastside Christian Church appeared. And so, with the current change in the ordinance, people who carry signs are given an opportunity to display those signs. They are not prevented from doing that. But I'm also thinking of a time when we had the issue of the comfort women. And there were probably 30 people in the audience who were holding up signs, blocking other people's views, and it was very, very intimidating to speakers. So I support the sign ordinance as redrafted. I also want to thank Jane Rands for coming up and being specific about the changes that she would like to see in the ordinance, as opposed to just a broadcast of discontent over the whole thing. To go down, I hear Mr. Curley's remark having to do to submit the materials to the city clerk's office no later than noon on the business day preceding the meeting. That would be a difficulty. And I would like to see a change in the ordinance that suggests that where City Hall is closed on a Friday and then Monday is a holiday, that materials be submitted by noon on the meeting day. I think that would be reasonable and not something that was egregious. Then, moving along, submitting a speaker slip. I also have been moved to speak